Our current renewable energy grids run into a hard physical limit. When the sun sets, power drops exactly as evening demand spikes, a daily mismatch known as the duck curve. Bridging that gap requires us to build massive, expensive battery facilities to store electricity for when we actually need it. Up at 36,000 kilometers in geostationary orbit, the sun shines 24 hours a day. There are no clouds, no seasons, and no night. For decades, beaming that energy back to Earth remained a theoretical dream. Physics dictates that a microwave transmitter in high orbit must be over a kilometer wide to stay focused. Building a structure that large out of traditional, rigid glass solar panels would require thousands of rocket launches, driving the cost into the trillions. The barrier to space solar power was never a lack of sunlight. It was the sheer weight of the equipment required to catch it. That weight limit is disappearing as engineers replace heavy glass with ultra-lightweight, flexible polyamide plastics. To make the solar cells themselves bend, researchers use a process called mechanical spalling. They shave off microscopic, highly efficient layers of crystalline solar cells, creating a film so thin it behaves like a sheet of fabric. Here, flexible solar tiles are framed by thin carbon fiber struts. Because the assembly is pliable, massive surface areas roll up tightly to fit standard rocket fairings. Once in orbit, the cylinder uncoils along 4 diagonal booms, expanding into a kilometer-wide array. By dropping the mass-to-power ratio so drastically, the launch arithmetic works out. An orbital power station finally fits within a viable commercial budget. Collecting sunlight in space is only half the equation. You still have to get gigawatts of power down to the surface, safely, across 36,000 kilometers of empty space, without a physical cable. The solution relies on tiny chips called radio frequency integrated circuits, or RFICs. Millions of these are embedded directly into the flexible solar array, converting the raw direct current electricity into microwave energy. To reach the ground, these millions of microscopic antennas have to act as a single, unified transmitter. They do this through phase synchronization, locking their output signals to a central clock so they fire in perfect unison. Delaying a wave's release by a fraction of a nanosecond makes the waves overlap. They perfectly intersect to create a concentrated focal point. Adjusting these electronic delays instantly jumps that focal point to a new location on Earth without the satellite moving. The array acts less like a giant floodlight washing over the planet and more like a precise, programmable tether, delivering energy exactly where it is dialed in. That targeted beam operates at either 2.45 or 5.8 gigahertz. These are standard industrial frequencies, the same ones used daily in household Wi-Fi routers. These specific wavelengths sit within what is known as a low-loss atmospheric window. Unlike sunlight, which gets blocked by a passing thunderstorm, these microwaves slice right through heavy cloud cover and rain with almost zero loss of energy. They are also strictly non-ionizing. They lack the energy to strip electrons from atoms, meaning the beam passes through the upper atmosphere, birds, and commercial airspace safely, without causing cellular damage. To catch that energy on the ground, you need a specialized receiver, a rectenna. This schematic shows how a basic rectenna works. The flat sections act as dipoles, capturing the 2.45 gigahertz wave. Right in the center is a rectifying diode, which instantly forces the oscillating microwave energy into a single direction, converting it into high-voltage direct current. With this hardware loop closed, Earth's chaotic weather becomes irrelevant. The atmosphere acts as a perfectly transparent conduit for continuous power delivery. A typical power plant requires years of concrete pouring, water cooling systems, and massive transmission towers. A rectenna station requires almost none of that. The ground receivers can be manufactured as flexible meshes, simply unrolled and staked into the ground across a stretch of desert, an Arctic outpost, or an isolated island. This opens the door to infrastructure leapfrogging. Just as mobile phones allowed developing nations to skip building vast networks of copper telephone wire, orbital power allows them to skip building centralized carbon-heavy energy grids. Reliable electricity becomes decoupled from local coal deposits or the political control of natural gas pipelines. Recent models map out the economics of this system. This equation calculates the levelized cost of energy, the lifetime cost divided by total energy production. By drastically reducing the mast of the satellite, the math projects a delivery cost of just 9.4 cents per kilowatt-hour, making it directly competitive with modern terrestrial sources. That provides the kind of cheap, 24/7 baseload power required to keep global AI data centers running while simultaneously supporting remote human outposts. As the hardware matures, the next major hurdle will be policy. Nations are beginning to map out orbital power rights, determining who controls the transmission frequencies and the high-value slots in geostationary orbit. The vacuum above our atmosphere is shifting from an empty void we occasionally explore into a functional, structural asset. By lifting our heaviest, most demanding energy infrastructure off the surface of the planet, we can power our ongoing development through a continuous, invisible connection to the sky.